Okay, so just to be cautious of time, I'm going to get started now. Good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, which is probably a lot, this is my first summit. I'm Raven Wells. I'm the lead communications coordinator, and I want to welcome you all to Bike Advocacy through Community Connections. Today, we're going to get to know some very innovative ways that people are bringing biking into their communities. I'm really excited for these presentations as I've been working with all of them and just seeing how exciting they are. But before I get to introducing our speakers, I just want to add a few housekeeping notes. And so we would love for this to be as interactive as any virtual session can allow. So I just encourage you to keep or turn on your cameras, and then also view your session in speaker view. That way, when our presenters share their screens, you'll be able to see them and their beautiful faces. And then also this session is being recorded, just so you know, and I'll share information about where that recording will be made available later on. Also, as you be courteous and type your questions into the Zoom chat, not the Whova chat, just the Zoom chat. Afterwards, if you have questions that you would like to chat into the Whova, that would be good. And then I'll also later on share, emails if you want follow-up questions. But yeah, please chat your comments and questions into the Zoom chat. And also be sure to put your name and your pronouns into your name title. That way, everyone will be able to properly address you. And also there's instructions on the screen if you'd like to turn off the closed captions, which are available. And then lower navigation bar, you just click on live transcript and then hide subtitle. Okay. And finally, I'd like to give a thanks to our sponsor, Bike Flight. At the end of the session, I will be playing a video from them so you can get to know a little bit more about them. So feel free to stay on for that, and then feel free to sign off. Okay, and then for our speakers today, first we'll have Noah Lenstra, the director and founder of Let's Move In Libraries. Charise Stevens, executive director of Youth Makerspace You Create Macon, and Reverend G. Charise Norvell of Judson Memorial Baptist Church. Okay, and so I'm going to kick it off to Noah to start us off with the presentations.
Great, thanks Raven, and thanks everyone for taking the time today. Since we don't have a lot of time, this is going to be a really action-packed presentation. But if you have a question that comes up, feel free to drop me an email at any point. I'd really love to hear from you. And so just to start, I kind of keep an eye on how public librarians are working to support bicycling across the country. And earlier this month, I saw that in Kentucky, the Marshall County Public Library is gearing up for its first ever bicycling program after recently being awarded the Paul and I Memorial Bicyclist and Pedestrian Education Grant, funded by donations from Kentucky Share the Road Specialty Light Program, administered by the Kentucky Bike and Bikeway Commission. These funds will be used by the library to purchase cycling items for circulation at all three branches, as well as programs for bike education and safety. And so what I've found is that librarians can help the bicycling movement in 4 ways. They are typically trusted public space at the heart of communities, so bike safe routes to libraries, as well as having conversations about planning. They have collections that they circulate, not only books, also information. Increasingly, they can be hubs for checking out bike gear and even bikes themselves. Libraries increasingly offer a variety of lifelong learning programming, including community bike rides, bike rodeos, bike safety classes. And then there are biking librarians, and I think we can work with librarians to get even more of them bicycling. And all of this really starts with conversations at the local level. And so I just want to give thanks to those of you who filled out my poll. And since we are short on time, I'm just going to ask folks, if you do work with your librarians, go ahead and just write a little bit in the chat about what you're doing with your librarians. And if not, what stands in the way. But I thought it was really interesting that there was almost a totally even split between people who currently do and do not work with librarians. So just to kind of orient, so America has over 17,000 public libraries. Almost every community in the country has a public library. So these institutions collectively employ almost 150,000 people, and all of them are potential partners. I think change, as you all know, really begins at the grassroots. So these are just some photos of some biking librarians. And so just a question, why aren't librarians always seen as the vital partners that they could be in the bicycling movement? And I think a lot of it, unsurprisingly, comes down to stereotypes. For a lot of people, this may be the image of what comes to your mind when you imagine what a librarian does. And in my research, I've really been interested in how do we really recognize that librarians are trusted partners, people that we can work with at the local level to transform our communities. They're not just places to get books. They're not just a trusted resource. They're people in communities and community advocates that we can work with. And so just to kind of give a reason why, one is that librarians are really that trusted model at the center of a community. So in my research, I talked to a head of a Main Street organization who told me that when the book bike comes to town, people are reminded that we have a bike trail system because the librarian is out there using it. And so having a librarian ride their book bikes, they're wearing their bike gear, it really helps remind the public that everybody can be healthy. If the librarian can do it, anyone can do it. And so the book bike is probably the best way to get started working with your librarian. And as I talk with librarians, these are the things that librarians need. They need help figuring out where to get the bike. They need help figuring out how to pay for the bikes. They need help often maintaining the bikes. And they also need help sometimes training their staff to safely ride these tricycles through streets. And just want to, if you're interested in this, the Association of Bookmobile and Outreach Services, every August, they have a National Book Bike Week celebration, last year celebrating 175 libraries across the country that use book bikes as a form of outreach. And just really quickly, in the few minutes that I have left, I just want to highlight a few other promising examples. In Michigan, the Kent District Library has a dedicated bike KDL webpage, and they're a silver level bike-friendly business. In Oakland, California, Oakland Public Library has bike repair resources. They have locks and pumps. They organize bike rides, and the Oakland Public Library is seen as a key piece of Oakland's bike plan. Libraries are great places for community conversations about complete streets, so much so, as Debbie Kingsland of NJDLT said, holding an awareness event like this at a public library is a great way to reach the people most affected by new transportation policies. I just want to quickly highlight, I love this example, Multnomah County, Oregon. They have an annual Bike to Books community art contest. So kids submit kind of bike related coloring designs, and every year the winning design is, as you see here, actually painted into bike lanes. Again, the message being that this infrastructure is for everyone. It doesn't matter what you look like, what your age is. Libraries are the common denominator. And recognizing that, as I said before, we're seeing more libraries actually physically checking out bikes, like this example from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania in the Lehigh Valley. Lots of libraries are sponsoring community bike rides. The DC Public Library is getting ready to do its 13th Tour de DCPL, a bike tour of DC Public Libraries branches. This is an example from Paducah, Kentucky, where they have a monthly Pedal in Paducah community bike ride, and they also have a bike book. And so I interviewed the people responsible for the library's bicycling program. And what they told me was that when they were doing these community bike rides at the bike shop, they averaged about 25 people. But when they moved them once a month to the library, the participation more than doubled. So simply by taking an existing community bike ride and moving it to a library, they got more than double the number of people that were coming, which really speaks to libraries as trusted centers at the hearts of communities that reach people that other institutions simply do not. And there's lots of promising examples, and I think actually the greatest opportunity is in small town and rural America. And I want to really make a quick plug for this great report, Bike Shares and Bicycle Libraries in Small Communities, which features public librarians in Vermont, Maine, Ohio, and Florida, working with communities to make bike shares happen. And I'm just running out of time, so I'm just going to quickly wrap things up by just reiterating these are 4 ways librarians can help in the national bike movement. They have public space at the heart of communities. They can be bikeable, they can be spaces for conversation. They check out things. Librarians are good at sharing not only information, but also objects. They increasingly have lifelong learning programs, including on bike safety. And more librarians themselves are biking, especially with the book bike trend. And it all starts with conversations at the local level. So thank you for your time. Here's my contact information. I know this has been a whirlwind, so look forward to talking with some of you after. But I'm going to go ahead and pass things on to our next presenter. Thanks very much.
Oh, Charise, I think you're muted.
I'm unmuted. Sorry about that. No, I got so excited, I forgot what I was doing. So this year's theme for the National Bike Summit is choosing our future. And I work with our kids. That is the future of biking. And I am so inspired with all they do. So my question to you is this a recipe for a successful youth program? Now think about these things. High poverty rate. No bikes to start a team. No funds, limited resources, a global pandemic, and lack of diversity with current cycling community. So do you think that's a recipe for a successful youth program? Guess what? The answer is yes, through community connections. The goal of my presentation today is just to give you a brief overview of what we're doing here locally, answer any questions about things you can do in your community with the lens of diversity and inclusion, and then looking at how to make teamwork the dream work. So what is You Create Macon? We are based here in Georgia, in Middle Georgia. And what we do, we are like a one-stop shop for youth biking. We have kids from rural communities, urban communities, boys, girls, kids with means. We've even had homeless children that was part of our program. We achieved this by having several youth-based programs. You'll hear a little bit about some of the programs that we have a little bit later in my presentation. And we truly believe in the power of the partnership. And that's what it comes with community connections. As you are looking at your programs, find out with market research, who's out there, what riding groups are there, who's your bike shop, what elected officials will be your champion. Really pulling together all
sweet enough to
community resources to achieve. And at the bottom of this picture, you'll see our kids got a chance to meet Nelson Vale. So that's going to be a life-changing opportunity that they had for that. So a little bit about me. I'm an LCI certified. I do all types of trainings. I'm certified in mountain biking, road cycling, and I'm even working on BMX because I really believe that representation matters. And as I am working with these kids, I don't want them to say, well, you know, Charise, Coach Charise, you don't know how to do X, Y, Z. So what we do for all of our programs, we train so we can train properly these kids. Now, my day job is I'm the director of small business affairs for our community. And so I wear many hats. But guess what? You Create Macon is powered by the best volunteer coaches. As you can tell in this picture, we have all ages, men, women. Our head coach is Coach Janet Greer. And just a quick story on her. When I first met her, We didn't know what we were doing. And she's been with me for day one. And in 3 months, we took our kids, they did Bragg, which is bicycle ride across Georgia, which is 469 miles in 1 week, including one day doing 100 miles. So that's the kind of people that we have coaching here. So as you're looking at your youth programs in your community, find these champions, find these people who love biking and kids, and that can really give their all. And I'm so thankful for the team that we have here. So our first location, and it's really important to have a location. If you have a youth bike program, we're totally different than others. You have to have a area to feed the kids, house the bikes. With You Create Macon, we provide everything for the kids. The biking clothes. When we first started, we had nothing. And because of these community connections, we were able to get donations, powered by, and really make this an award-winning program. But guess what? We quickly outgrew this location. As you see, these kids are excited. This first picture you see at the bottom are our kids the first day. We were on borrowed bikes and we had borrowed clothes on. But look at us now. We have our own bike shop. So the kids learn bike maintenance. All our kids know ABC checks, and some of our kids know how to work on derailleurs. This is the inside of our 5,000 square feet clubhouse, in which we have training facility. And to be quite honest, we're actually growing out of this location. So we'll be having a third storage location opening next month. We started with Westside Kids. And as you do your outreach, we're talking about being inclusive. Don't leave any child out of reach. I don't care if they're rural, urban, poor, rich, any race. Biking is for everybody. And I think why I'm so excited about what's happening, my lights just went off. Okay, sorry about that. What I'm so excited about is the diversity I see with people who are finding biking. Biking has changed our community, has changed my life, and I want every child available to be able to participate. So one of the programs that we house here is Trips for Kids. One of the things when we first started this program, we want to maximize partnerships, and we didn't know everything. So if you're starting a youth program, no, you don't know everything. Find out from people around you, maximizing your community connections to find out who knows what and bringing them to the table. When we first started, we became a Trips for Kids chapter. And with that, we have an Earn a Bike program, trail rides, curriculum, the whole 9 yards. And we didn't have to create it from scratch. So we're so thankful for this partnership. Also, we are a Major Taylor chapter. We're the only Major Taylor official youth chapter in the world. Does everybody, I don't want you to put in your chat group, do you know who Major Taylor is? And if not, I want you to look up Major Taylor. That's going to be your homework assignment from this call. So we're the only Major Taylor group. And with that, our kids have traveled the United States. When we started, some of our kids had never been out of their community, out of their neighborhoods. Now they've been to Ithaca, New York. They saw Harriet Tubman's home. They actually went to Selma to Montgomery and actually took the route that Martin Luther King took. So when we're talking about connections and making your community better, our kids now are having life-changing experiences that's changing their outlook on life. We do service. When we first started, even though our kids come from very different backgrounds, some very troubled, we wanted them to have a level of service. We've given out 200 community bikes, which the kids help rehab. And because of this, now we are a free Bikes for Kids program. And our goal for 2022, you guys, is to give out 500 bikes in our community, and we're going to do it. And we're going to do it with the help of our kids, and they get to actually deliver these bikes to other kids. It's exciting. I cry all the time but I'm not going to cry in this presentation, but it gets me excited. Also, our kids are national award winners. I won't say which one of these kids on this picture, but one of the kids in this program that won a national award was a homeless child that came to our program. He was a child that people had deemed bad when he came to our program, and he's a national award winner and one of the fastest mountain bike kids in Georgia. So like I said, when you're outreaching to kids, don't leave any kid untouched. I think cycling can change lives, and just looking at this picture, you can see how we're changing lives. Our kids teach college students, and we have several kids now that had never thought about going to college, and guess what? They're thinking about college now. So as you're talking about the libraries and things like that, I'm actually going to be incorporating that because I really feel that it's a big connection in learning and training and biking. And this smile right here, this is one of our first kids to do 100 miles. This is why we do what we do. And that's why it's so important that as you're looking at this program, you bring all your partners together, because it's all about getting more kids on bikes. Nothing else, getting more kids on bikes and having more smiles just like this. How to start a bike program. You partner with your local bike shops. You reach out to all children. Don't leave any stone unturned. Make sure you become a 501c3 because it's super expensive to have a youth bike program. If I showed you my budget, you'll probably fall out. It's pretty expensive. And then what we do and why we've been so successful is that you provide all the resources for these kids, and we are the equity base for that. So you may see a child with a $5,000 bike, but you don't know if this child was a former homeless kid or a child that actually has the means to make it. These kids are all the same in our eyes. So become a 501c3 so you can apply for grants and other opportunities. And with our program, we have served over 1,000 kids, you guys, 1,000 kids. So anytime that you have any questions about how to strengthen your youth-based program, feel free to give me a call. Our ultimate goal is to get more kids on bikes. I'm passionate about this, you guys. This is my heart. And every time that I see a child, see a child's life change because of cycling, because we didn't have it for so many years, it knows that my mission in life is possible. So thank you for the opportunity to share. If you have any questions, we'll wait to the end. I'll be happy to answer what I can.
Thank you, Charise. And then our final presenter, Reverend G. Chavis Norvell.
All right. Yeah, so I would like to talk about a little about the faith communities. So mine is, and on the third day, Jesus rode again, faith communities and bicycle advocacy. So this journey began about 10 years ago when my daughter, who was 12 at the time, challenged me, said, "Dad, I was listening to your sermon. What are you willing to do to sacrifice so that others may experience joy?" And I didn't have an answer for her, and I felt like a complete phony. So that night I stayed up all night and I figured out that we could sell our car and I could bike, walk, and take public transit for my job. So that's how this journey started. And now I call myself the pedaling pastor. So this began. So one of the things I found in the midst of all this bike work is that, faith communities just weren't part of the conversation. The people were either very hesitant to engage them, or they just didn't feel comfortable in that conversation. So this is a way of maybe a presentation to think about how to engage faith communities with this. And this is based on a order, disorder, reorder pattern. So this is the order that we all face right now. And this is, these giant, this is one instance in America, giant churches that have giant parking lots and no way to get a bicycle there. So the crazy part about this picture, if you can see, on the lower hand and on the left-hand side, there are bike lanes into this that surround this church, but there's no way to get inside of it on a bike. And just for the record, my church is only 100 people. We have more bike parking than this church does. It has 5,000 on a Sunday. So there's things you can do. So this is kind of the order. It's either suburbs, large churches without any parking lots, or you get to this situation. Go back one. This is First Baptist Church in America in Providence. A church has been there for about 300 plus years, where you don't have any bike lanes around it, limited parking, and this is the way the churches kind of operate. And then bicyclists come along, and they present what I call disorder, asking for bike lanes and access to the area. But my thing won't share. Oh, there. I'm off a couple. Sorry. There we go. And this is out of Ireland, but it could be anywhere in the U.S. The right to cycle is disrupting the right, the freedom of worship. And this came out of Ireland, but you've heard this argument all over America. Anytime that a community wants to put in a bike lane near a church, churches start saying, well, what about all our parking? And there's no way that people will be able to make it inside. And then the communication breaks down, and we get in this binary of either for us or against us kind of thinking. So this is the disorder that putting a bike lane in front of a church produces. But is there a way around this? And that's what I'd kind of like for us to think about today around it. So this is the reorder. So there was a time when there weren't, peanut butter cups. There was peanut butter and chocolate, and then somebody had the great idea to put the two together. So my idea is, can we put faith communities and bicycle advocates together? Because faith communities have concerned citizens who want to help, but they don't know what to do. Whereas bicycle advocates are concerned citizens who need help and they know what to do. So how can we put the two together and try to find a better way around the situation that we have? So here are some examples of things that are going on around the nation for bicycle advocacy. But here's my 3 rules of engagement. For both parties in this engagement, be upfront that you're present for a partnership, not conversion. And I think if that's right from the get-go, I think you can have a better relationship. And for both parties to begin with generous assumptions. Oh, look at this, I got a typo, man. And then the third one is, lean in with a curious posture rather than a defensive posture. I think that will go a long ways towards any conversation in life. So here are some engagements that are happening around the nation. This is Revolution's Bicycle Shop, which is housed in First Congregational Church in Memphis, Tennessee. They do fantastic work, and it's one way of churches opening up their non-for-profit space for places like this to happen. And they do a lot of great work and do some amazing things. A second example. Now, this is Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. Probably some of you have been there. This is the spiritual home of the King family, and there's a bike lane right beside it. And the pastor, Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock, is an avid bicyclist. But when you ask people, how many people bike to church at Ebenezer on a Sunday? And, on one hand, you can count. So how can we get these two areas back together again in one ways? And then finally, this is just a cartoon. This is from Dave Walker. If you don't know Dave, he is a cartoonist out of the UK that does fantastic bicycling cartoons. And it should be coming here pretty soon. So Raven, do we have some whistling music as we wait for this thing to emerge? It looks like it wants to come.
Yeah, I wish I had a Jeopardy.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. All right. Oh, so this came out of the UK in Manchester. The diocese was trying to figure out a way, how can we get more cyclists involved on Sunday mornings? And so I'll have this is in the slide deck, everybody can have it. But Dave is trying to figure out a way to reorder things, getting faith communities and bicycle advocates together, and just think about the way that your faith community, if you're part of one, how it can be a more of an ally. And when we look at the cycling revolution that happened in the Netherlands, church basements were where bike schools were one of the first places they started. So maybe a church basement or a house of worship gym or parking lot or basement can be a spot for another bike school to emerge. That's me. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're now going to open up the floor to questions. If you'd like to drop your questions in the Zoom chat, and I'll kick it off to whoever they're directed to, or if you just have any general questions or things that you'd like to open up the floor for discussion. Okay, well, while I'm waiting, hopefully somebody has any other questions, but just a question from me would be, maybe for each of you, what would be, if you were talking to an advocate, what would you advise to be the first step to making those connections in your respective, areas?
I think from all of our presentations, we are passionate about what we do, and sharing it in a concise way of what you're trying to do can really bring in the advocates and champions for your particular program. We try to keep it simple for us, and it's worked out fairly well for us.
Yeah, and I'll just say I saw a few people talking about wanting to do specific things with their libraries as regards to collections. And my advice would be to go in to the first meeting with librarians with an open mind and start by listening. I think you'll actually be surprised at what librarians are up to. And kind of by going in with an open mind, you'll actually be able to come up with something that's authentic and impactful, rather than kind of just going in with your idea of what the library should do.
Yeah, I would just walk up to a faith community and say something like, this building would be great with more bike parking, and see where it takes you. Yeah.
Great. And question from Ralph. In seeking for a champion, if you ask community leaders if they bike, they will all say yes. The real question should be what? Oh, I'm not sure if that was a comment or a question.
And Raven, the good thing is I think we did such a thorough job in describing our programs. It made
Okay. I see one from Ned. There was a session yesterday about insurance coverage on bike classes, specifically when you're taking children on public roads. What considerations have to be made for liability concerns? I believe that's directed at you, Charise.
Yeah, so two things. You have to have a waiver. I don't care who's riding with you, you get a signed waiver, especially from our kids, they have to sign a waiver. Then we also have our own club insurance for our club, and you can find different providers. Ours is a little more robust because we have so many bikes that we cover. Ours kind of like a recyclery, but you can get a really good plan for the year that would cover that, as well as even with our waivers, we included a COVID portion in it as well, just extra coverage, but always have waivers.
Okay. And yeah, Ralph did clarify. The question is, how do you identify a real biking champion, not just someone who bikes?
Travis, Noah?
I mean, I guess I'd say it would be someone who bikes who's also a community champion. I feel like those, yeah, so you're not just a bicycling, but you're community minded and community passionate. So yeah, that would be what I would say.
And you can just tell when talking to someone. We've actually, our kids have actually met Senator Warnock, and he had a ton of people waiting for him, but he was sitting there talking biking. So in my mind, he's a bike champion.
Bruce asks, to what extent did each of your programs rely in the startup period on public funds?
When we first started, we were really just donation based. And like Travis was saying, really think out of the box. We didn't have money for our first building. So I looked for a blighted building and did an end user agreement that, listen, we're going to utilize this building for the greater good for the community. And as we started having successes, we started getting more donations. But the key to this success is your grant writing. Right now, people are looking, because of this global pandemic, of getting out, getting more active. It's more grant opportunities. So do not let this season pass you by. I'm literally in the middle of writing 2 grants I feel really, really good about, but that's the way to sustain your program.
Yeah, Noah, Travis, did either of you want to take that too? And another question from Audrey. What was the first step from LCI to kids program for you, Charise?
Okay, what was the question?
What was the first step from being an LCI to You Create Macon?
Well, to be honest, I started the youth program first, but I believe that for me to be an effective leader, I had to do the appropriate training. And being an LCI was what I needed to do. How could I teach kids about bike safety if I was not doing it correctly? So all of our coaches, we go through bike safety, we go through CPR, we go to a lot of training so we can make sure that we're being a good steward of these kids' time. So it's a smart biking 101 and a couple other classes that I don't think initially you have to pay for. So I would just encourage, and not because Raven's on here, but go to the Bicycle League page. They have a lot of resources. They have PSAs. I share their PSAs locally in my community. You don't have to start from scratch. I don't believe in starting from scratch. It's a lot of resources. Again, we're talking about community connections. It's a lot of things out there, and you can pull it together to customize it to your community.
Yeah, thank you, Charise. And then question from, so how can bike advocates best earn the trust of community champions? That's a good question I would like to know as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll quickly. So I've talked with a lot of librarians that have book bikes, and one frustration that I've heard librarians say is that some in the bicycling community have been a little bit flighty. Like they'll say, "Oh yeah, we'll help you with maintenance," and then there's no follow through, or that follow through is very temperamental. Someone may say, "I'll help with the maintenance," and then they move out of town. And so I would say consistency is really the main thing. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to say you're going to help do something. It's another to be there working hand in hand collaboratively 5 years later. And I think it's that consistency that ultimately always builds and sustains trust.
The thing I found most helpful is, when I'm out riding my bike for work, I try to find people and they're walking their dogs. So the community champions, I'll stop them. And when they're walking their dogs, and I have some dog biscuits always on me, and just start talking to them about why they need to be more supportive of bicycling in the community. And that for me has helped out quite a bit, surprisingly. Yeah.
And then my suggestion is to share your success stories. I know sometimes we're in the midst of our programming, but these champions want to know what our successes are, and giving them concrete examples, testimonials. If it's a particular parent, that kid is doing better in school, or a kid that's done something great. I guess that's my marketing background, but I share a lot. We have lots of videos. So as you are getting these champions, reel them in, you guys, with these success stories.
Yeah, and I love John's example in the chat, and I've seen that again and again. It's kind of, you just get your foot in the door and then things snowball. You may think you're going to be doing X with the library and you end up doing Y because you have a relationship, and relationships are what change communities, not programs. So I think that's a great example, John.
Yeah, and someone wants to know, how do bike libraries work?
Yeah, so that's a complex. I put a link in the chat to the report I mentioned on bike shares and bike libraries in small communities. I mean, there's lots of different varieties. I mean, some are actually checking out bicycles. Another common modality in more urban communities that already have bike shares is libraries will have passes that you can get free from the library to get a dockless bicycle or a docked bicycle. So there's lots of different varieties, but I'd be happy to kind of follow up offline as well. But yeah, there's quite a lot of ways that you can circulate both bicycles and bike passes.
Great, great. And while we're dropping links in the chat, I do want to, as Charise said, plug, using Bike League also as a resource, and especially the Bicycle Friendly Business Program. Since I started with the League as a communications coordinator, I've got to share a lot of the different work that bicycle friendly businesses are doing. And that's why I really enjoyed learning about this session, because, we try to share the different things that organizations are doing as much as we can. But every time I'm surprised by different initiatives that people are starting that you would never even think of, that are getting people in communities on bikes. So I definitely encourage people to look at that program. Also, even we share a resource that's kind of an easy overview of the program. If there's a business in your community that is not bicycle friendly and you want to present them this and say, hey, like, to start the conversation, here's something that you could do to be better for bikes. So yeah, just drop that in the chat and also think of that as a resource. And we also did a webinar on Bike Month. And I think I've talked to Noah a little bit about some of the things that libraries do for Bike Month as well. So you could also use that as a resource if you're already established that connection and you want to plan a Bike Month together. Collaboration is something that can go very far in planning a Bike Month and just planning activities in general. And we're going to be wrapping up here in just like 2 minutes. So if anybody has any final questions, feel free to drop them in the chat.
It's a lot of great comments in the chat box.
Okay, and I know that Noah dropped his email in there a couple times. I'm also putting in our other two speakers in case anyone wants to email them with their questions. But yeah, thank you for attending. I hope you enjoy the rest of your summit, and I'd like to give a special thanks to our presenters. Love the presentations, and I'm glad that we could come together and share this information. I do want to thank our sponsor, Bikeflight, again, and I will be playing a video from Bikeflight if you'd like to learn a little bit more about that, easy bike travel. But other than that, you can feel free to sign off and enjoy the rest of your summit.
The video is muted.
Thank you. Okay, are we able to hear now?
We're more.
Yes, we can hear.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm John. Welcome to the Bike Flights YouTube channel. This is your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about bike flights, our boxes, and our bike shipping services. Let's get started. We founded Bike Flights in 2009 with a simple goal: to build a better bike shipping experience for cyclists. Over a decade in business and nearly 1 million customers later, we're more committed to that mission than ever before. Today, we're the #1 bike shipping service in the world. We've worked hard to earn that trust. Out of more than 32,000 reviews on Trustpilot.com, our customers consistently give us a 5-star rating. What's our secret to success? We cater to the needs of cyclists. From individual riders to bike shops, events, and cycling industry businesses, our customers are our #1 priority. Whether you're shipping for a trip or after a sale, whatever your shipping needs, we're here to help. As cyclists, we understand how precious bikes are, so we work with you every step of the way to ensure you get low costs, excellent customer service, preferred handling, and on-time delivery. We know how complicated shipping can be. That's why we work with the best carriers in the world to develop advanced solutions, provide more resources, and equip you with the tools and expert support you need to get your bikes, wheels, and gear to their destination. So how does it work? It's simple and easy. First, find a box or case and pack your bike, wheels, or gear. If you need a box, you can order a reusable one from our store. If you need help packing, use our bike shop finder to find a bike shop near you. Next, head to bikeflights.com to get costs, select a pickup or drop off, and book your shipment. You'll get your labels within minutes. And that's it. We'll update you with important tracking notifications, and you can check your tracking status anytime. We can ship everything from road bikes to mountain bikes, tandems, unicycles, and even e-bikes. We also ship bike parts, like forks, frames, and wheels. We ship all across the United States, including Alaska and Hawaii. And if you're heading overseas, we offer shipping to more than 50 countries. With Bike Flights, you get access to our enterprise-level shipping solutions, which reduce the true cost of shipping. Your time is valuable. That's why we work proactively to resolve any issues that arise. Before, during, and after shipping, our team of customer service representatives will track and monitor your package so you don't have to. As a brand built around a love for the outdoors, we're committed to reducing our environmental impact. Every Bike Flight shipment is carbon neutral, and our bike boxes are fully recyclable. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up to date with our latest packing and shipping tips. From all of us at Bike Flights, happy riding. We'll see you out there.
Okay. Thank you for joining, and I will see you guys at the rest of the summit.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.